It's been really interesting. If we look at some of the races recently in Brazil, Toto and Lewis were standing at the front of the garage looking at our cars. We've had other teams that have come down the pit lane looking at our cars. So they obviously see that we've got something right. But it's just very interesting. It puts a smile on your face when you see these people that, for a few years have ignored us and now all of a sudden realise that we are a serious contender.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Track Limits. This episode is brought to you by our very, very special friends at DP World. We're here in Abu Dhabi.
Let's go.
A couple hours before the first practice sessions that are kicking off, and we're joined by a great guest, someone who spent countless number of years in Formula One, different positions, very much at McLaren. Welcome the Director of Trackside Operations, Mark Norris.
Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm very good. Thank you.
Yeah?
How are you?
Good. Are you ready for the last race?
Feeling refreshed, ready to go. Like I say, free practice one in a few hours' time.
Yeah.
And let's see how we set ourselves up for this weekend.
Yeah. Exactly. You must be pretty tired now getting to the end of the season.
I think everybody's a little bit, but not too bad. We've got one more to go. We've still got to have the focus on doing what we need to do for this weekend. I think the team, we had a team event last night and it was good to get everyone together and re-emphasise that focus that we need to have for this weekend. We're still in a battle in the Constructors' Championship with Aston Martin. We're 11 points ahead of them. So that means a lot to the team to secure that fourth place in the Constructors. Obviously, that has a monetary value to the teams as well in the Constructors' Championship.
And pride.
And pride, of course. So, our focus is to make sure that we do the best job we can and to come out where we want to be in the Constructors at the end of this season.
Yeah, and it's actually so impressive, the trajectory you guys had this season.
The team have done a fantastic job. If you look at the development rate that we as a team have done throughout the course of this year from where we started, well, Bahrain test feels like it was yesterday, really, but, all that time ago. And the first half of the year we know was a tough challenge for the team. But we saw changes from the Austrian Grand Prix into Silverstone. We managed to bring some of those upgrades in earlier than anticipated. And we've just seen how great the team has done. And that's a collective effort. That's everybody back at the factory in the DO, for everybody that's for trackside based, the focus that the mechanics give, the focus the drivers give, the focus the designers give, back at base as well. It's not just an individual that makes the difference. It is a team, and that's the most important thing. And when you work as a team, and I think it's shown that McLaren has really got a great team working collectively to get where we are. And I think you look at the stats of the development against any other team, and McLaren are head and shoulders over 100%. That development this year.
And it's given a lot of hope too.
For next year.
So many teams now are looking at you guys as an example of, hey, we started there and we can be at the end of the season here fighting for podiums.
It's been really interesting. If we look at some of the races recently in Brazil, Toto and Lewis were standing at the front of the garage looking at our cars. We've had other teams that have come down the pit lane looking at our cars. So they obviously see that we've got something right. But it's just very interesting. It puts a smile on your face when you see these people that, for a few years have ignored us and now all of a sudden realise that we are a serious contender. And I think that gives us a good step for next season, and we just got to make sure that we carry that momentum into next year. And by the time we leave here and we've done the young driver test after the race, what are we, 8-9 weeks from being at the test in Bahrain, 17th of Feb or whatever, we're going to be there, and then we're straight in.
Off season.
They call it not really an off season anymore. We used to. When if I go back a few years, we had 16 races. You'd finish mid-October and you'd start again mid-March, and everybody would have had 3 and a half months off. Now we're 8 weeks and we're straight back into it again. And there isn't really an off season because that design and development of that car is going to continue. As soon as we get back, we're going to be focused on that car. As soon as we cross that finish line on Sunday, that car's obsolete, but it's finished with. Then we've got to move on to next year's. So I think we'll let the factory have Christmas Day, New Year's Day off, and that's it. And everybody's focused on getting the cars and the equipment that we're going to need to Bahrain for the Bahrain test.
And are you a fan of new races being added to the track?
Yeah, 100%. You know, I think what it is great is coming to different markets, is bringing the sport to those different fan bases. And you know, if I look at races that we've had that we don't have anymore, India's a prime one. The fan base for Formula One in India is huge. You know, apart from, other than IPL, Formula One's the next thing, and it's a shame we don't race there. I know there's other countries that are talking about races coming back. You know, Korea, Malaysia, Colombia. They're talking about a couple of new races possibly in Europe as well. So I think it's great that the sport is in such a good shape. And then things like Drive to Survive has really helped in that. And that's brought a different demographic to Formula One than it had maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And I think that's good for us as teams. It's good for us as a sport. And when you look at the demographic that's changed, the audience is much younger than it was. And that was a real focus for Formula One and for Liberty when they took over, is how do they bring that age group down? But also the female market, how you attract that. And when you look at races like in the US, and if you take the US and you've got 3 races there now, if we take North America and Montreal, you've got 4 races out there. Formula One's always struggled in the US. You know, we did Indianapolis back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and we struggled there. Even though Indianapolis was the home of US motorsport, Formula One didn't quite get it there. And then I think with COTA coming on board and bringing in a purpose-built circuit, the first year we went there, the crowds were incredible, and the crowds are still incredible there now. And obviously with Miami and obviously Vegas that we have just had, I think, you know, that is really helping, and that is a huge market to make sure that we really tap into and keep that momentum in that market. But I'm a massive fan, and I hope we do see more races. The challenge for the teams is how many races does that become?
What's the cap?
What's the cap? You know, we can go to 24 at the moment. We're going to be on that limit pretty much for next year. I know Formula One want the desire to have more, but then do you go into rotational races? Do you rotate some of the Europeans? Do you rotate some of the flyaway races? Or do you say, right, we're going to keep a certain number of races which we know is going to have a huge attraction to fan bases physically at track, but also from a TV perspective, and then rotate the others. But that brings other challenges to us too.
Definitely. So looking at you, Mark, I mean, when we were doing our research, I think you happen to be one of the most interesting people in Formula One. 100%. And I'm curious from your vantage point.
I don't know if I'm that interesting.
I think you are, though. I think you are. I mean, like the number of different roles that you've had in Formula One, can you speak to some of that in terms of your past experience, how you got into the sport and some of the roles you've had before?
How did I get into sport? I got into sport by accident. I always say I was in the right place at the wrong time or the wrong place at the right time. You know, I'd had not a career in automotive industry. I worked in the automotive industry for a few years, but I competed myself in rally championships. So I always had an interest in cars and sort of competing in motorsport, and also building the cars, which I did as well. So I always had a fascination with that. And this opportunity came to join the commercial team at McLaren back in 1996. In actual fact, I had my first ever interview with McLaren back in 1990. And sort of 6 years later, I finally joined the team. But like you say, I've pretty much held most of the roles that you can think of in there. So I can always say I'm sort of a jack of all trades, master of none. But yeah, when I very first started in the commercial side, I was looking after a lot of the official suppliers. At that time, we had Goodyear as the tyre manufacturers, looked after those. A lot of people that are machine companies, a lot of people that gave us product in kind, that didn't necessarily give us financial investment. Then moved on to being responsible for Mercedes-Benz and Mobil 1 brand globally for nearly 11 years. And then I was asked to take on our title sponsorship when we had Vodafone. That came in 2007. Worked for a year behind the scenes in 2006 to help be part of creating that brand and creating our identity and what we were going to be all about. It wasn't just me. There was a team of people that were involved in that. But that was fascinating to be creating something from ground up. Obviously, Vodafone had time with Ferrari as a principal sponsor, but not as a title sponsor is what they want. And when I look back at that, that was probably some of the most exciting years of my life at McLaren, where we did stuff. that no one else has tried to repeat. I was only talking about it with some people, some ex-Vodafone people actually, that were happened to be in Las Vegas. And when I look back at what people are doing for social media now, content creating, we were doing that back in 07, 08, making viral videos with the drivers, going out on YouTube before it was even done. And people still remember all of this stuff that we had done. And I think it was a great time, but it's a great team still. And we're doing stuff again now that we've got different partners involved, and we're doing, again, groundbreaking stuff. So it's been a fantastic journey to where I am now, which is Director of Trackside Ops. And I was sort of doing that while I was sort of Director of Partnerships and Head of Partnerships before that, and sort of was doing two roles. But we could just see that the roles for partnerships and operations was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it couldn't just be done by one person. So about 5 years ago, we separated that role, and there we are where we are today.
Yeah, and explain what your role is. I think it's a shame that Drive to Survive doesn't talk about these roles because they're so key. But what are your key roles?
It's all sorts. It's very difficult to describe about what I do. Is ultimately I'm responsible for all of the commercial aspects of the business. The way we split it is, you've got the race team, and we have a team coordination services department within the racing, and they're focused on delivering the performance to the race team. From a commercial perspective, we sort of keep that separately, so we're not mixing the two. So we're wanting to keep racing very focused on racing, and from the commercial side is delivering what we need to deliver for our partners, and what we need to deliver for us on track from a commercial perspective. And that's really where I step in and cover all of that. So that's everything from our catering organization and their freight and moving that around, for then commercial sea freight and air freight that we have to each of the races, to all the drivers management, all their scheduling, not only at racetrack but also away from track as well throughout the whole year, all the branding on the car, making sure that that is correct when we get here on track, that we're delivering what we need to deliver contractually to our partners, and working with the brand team that's based back in the UK on that before coming to track, but then making sure that we've delivered what we need to deliver on track. The garage, the hospitality, the front of house hospitalities, our team hub, both here at Flyways, but also our motorhome that you see in the European paddock. That's all under my responsibility as well. How I get the commercial team to and from a race, all the accreditation, make sure they're all in the right hotels, we've got enough rooms, we've got to make sure everything. So it's really quite far reaching and quite broad. And then it's troubleshooting on the ground. If we've got an issue we come across, then that's my role to fix it and to sort it and find those solutions. And which is one of the things I really love. I love being in the field, and I love having those challenges where we've got an issue. How do we sort it? For me, there's never an issue. There's always a solution.
Well, take us through a moment, like an incident, a big challenge that you had to face.
Actually, we had one for the Brazilian Grand Prix, particularly from a sea freight perspective, from a catering point of view, that we had, we couldn't get, we didn't have enough kit to get our catering our catering department to Brazil. So I had about 8 weeks to create a whole new kit, maybe a bit longer than that. And this is where our partnership with DP World, I couldn't have done it without them, because I had to get this kit on a boat to Brazil. Now, if I hadn't have done that, we wouldn't have had any catering equipment for the team, which is a big issue. That is an issue I can't always solve on site. So I had to resolve that to get that out to Brazil. And we did that, and we got it literally down to the wire to ship it out, to get it to Brazil, and it was there. And ultimately that means we could feed the team, and the team is in good stand for that race. So that's one sort of challenge. And I think the challenges we've got, we're talking about more races coming in, is that logistical challenge of how we move freight around, and that is become very expensive. But there's more and more equipment that's required to the races, and as you put more races on, you often have to increase the amount of equipment that you need to send around the world. And I think what we've had with our partnership with DP World, and it's only a relatively new partnership since 2022, we've had a lot of sessions with them about how can they help us be more efficient, how can they help us move this equipment around the world? And I'm talking, if we talk about sea freight, we're moving around 35 tons of freight by boat to these races, and we have multiple sets. So at the moment, we have 6 sets of everything, particularly from a racing perspective. When you look at the garage infrastructure, engineers island, the pit walls, etc., and all of the sort of infrastructure that's back of house, which you don't see. So we've got those multiple sets, but as the races potentially increase, do we have to increase those sets of equipment? Then we're flying equipment still to the races, and we only really fly 3 things because the cost of air freight is so expensive. And if I take, what do we fly? We fly the car and the essential equipment to run the car. We fly our IT system, because without that, we can't communicate back to the technology center in Woking. We can't communicate to the cars can't communicate to the garage, we can't communicate to the FIA. So that's a vital piece of equipment. So we fly that, and we fly our personnel, and that's all we fly. But if we look at air freight, we're still flying something in the region of 21 tons of air freight. And of course, as we move into a bigger sustainability objective, we have to look at that. And with DP World, they know that's key on our agenda, and they're helping us with that, about how we can be more sustainable. Instead of taking items back to the UK and ship them back and then ship them back out again, we're working with DP World on storage solutions around the world that actually that freight doesn't come back. If we need to service it, we'll service it in the field, whether we're holding that at a DP World storage facility in Fort Lauderdale for the American market, in Dubai for the Middle Eastern market, in Singapore for the Asian market, including Australia. So they're helping us with that, and that is a real focus of our partnership for the next few years, to make that better than, we're just scratching the surface. But we can see the benefits that they can offer us, and how we can be more cost effective and more sustainable, and that's sort of where we're going to move to in the future with DP World.
You know how Harvard Business Review has like case challenges? It just seems like Formula One is one big logistical case challenge.
Some people say Formula One is a circus, but it is. You're moving thousands of people around. That's just the teams. You're moving hundreds of tons of freight around, whether that be in Europe by road and by all the trucks that you see come and all the motorhomes, etc., or you're moving stuff by air. But it's constant. It never stops, because if you're moving it in Europe, you've got to get the equipment off the trucks that were in Europe to get it into your freight to go to the flyaways. You're moving all those sets around the world, and that's constantly from one country to the next to the next. Does that come back to the UK? Possibly at the end of the year. Some of those kits that we've got coming that we're using now don't come back to the UK, as we were saying. They'll stay in markets. Some will come back, but we've got to service all of this equipment. Do we need to clean it? Do we need to repaint it? Do we need to apply new graphics to it with change of partners throughout the course of the year? Do we have a coloration change? Do we need to replace broken items? All of that we're doing in very, very short turnarounds. And in some instances, we have a matter of a week or 10 days to turn this stuff around before it's got to go back out to get to the destinations for next year. We're going to start shipping for next year. We're going to start shipping sea freight in December. As soon as we get back from Abu Dhabi, we've got about a 3-week turnaround to move stuff for Bahrain race, test, Saudi, Australia, China, Japan.
Wow.
And how does a cost cap work with all this happening?
And that is where there's 2 different sides of it. So you've got the racing side of things, where you are very restricted on the cost cap, and that's again why we're looking at, do we ship all of this stuff back and forward? By keeping it in a location, we are reducing our overheads, so it's helping in the cost cap. When you come from a commercial perspective, we're not included in that cost cap. But again, everybody's got budgets to adhere to. I'm tasked with my financial budgets per season of how race operations operate, and how I've got to keep within those budgets, or where I can make savings. So yeah, you're looking at it at two different aspects, from racing and commercial, but those challenges are there constant, and that's why we're constantly evaluating, constantly reviewing, and constantly talking to our partners where they can help us and give us the advantage.
Yeah.
And I saw online too that you were part of the promotion working group and helping kind of all F1 teams align with Liberty Media's vision for the sport. Can you tell us a bit more about your work there?
Yeah, and it's something that sort of COVID, as it did in a lot of areas, stopped a lot of things. But McLaren was the team that sort of created the promotional working group. And it was great to be involved right at the very start. And we had regular meetings throughout the course of the season with all the teams. And that was a mixture of our friends in our comms division as well as the commercial division, and every team was represented with at least two people. We also had the FIA involved, we had Formula One involved, and it's just the whole process is how can we make the sport better for us and for Formula One. And ultimately, if we can make it better for us, we can make it better for Formula One, we're going to make it better for the fans and the people that come and watch. And that is from anything from events to how we can engage with fans. So we did a big event, as an example, in Australia back in 2018, 2019 in Federation Square. And we got all the drivers on a boat and we got them all into Fed Square.
Yeah.
We did a big introduction, all the team principals were there. And that was to really engage the fans. Which is crucial to the teams, and that was actually an idea that came from within us, but presented it to F1, and F1 wanted to do that, and that was how it sort of evolved, and that was what the promotional group was all about. We're just about now, we've got sort of all the restrictions out of the way, and we're back to normal. Very much engaged again with Formula One, and we're looking for in 24 to bring back this promotional working group where all the teams are engaged. So we're all on the same page. We're all working to the same end goal, really. And if we can do it collectively to make this better for everyone, why shouldn't we do it? You know, I understand that all the teams have got their own objectives, but most of those objectives at some point come together. And that's really our focus, is how can we just make this better all round?
Brilliant. Final question to kind of end this section. I'm specifically curious, you've talked about how, previously your role had to be split up, right? From partnerships to trackside ops, it's way too much for one person to handle. How do you see your role evolving over, let's say, the next 5 years even? Do you think that role becomes even more broad?
For me, yes, because I think commercially our operating procedures are going to become more and more important. And I think that will be the same within racing as well. If races increase, that's going to put a different dimension on it. We have got more people coming to races from a team perspective as an employees, but also from a guest perspective from our partners and their guests. So the demand on what we deliver at track is increasing. The way the partners activate around the races in the region is increasing. And I can only see that getting more and more and more. So yeah, this role and what we do on site and our planning, because when we come to Abu Dhabi, as we are here this weekend, what we're doing this weekend, we just didn't just agree a week ago or 2 weeks ago. This is months, in the planning. Something like Vegas, with a brand new race, that was 2 years. So I was in Vegas 2 years ago with LVGP, and that is a process of us working to getting to that point. And when we come here, we're already working on races, even as far as Monaco already, of what we're doing, what the partners want to do, what we need to activate, how we're going to activate it. So then all the equipment that we're going to need there, are we going to be doing livery changes? So how does that impact how we get the cars prepared, etc. And that's where I work closely with racing. Is that we've got obligations to deliver to our commercial partners, but how do we work very closely with racing to make sure that it's seamless? And that's part of my sort of role as well. So I can only see that getting busier because and that goes back to that very first question we had. How is the health of the sport? The sport is in great health and it's just on a great trajectory. And we want that to continue because this is a fantastic sport. It's a sport that I've been involved in for 27 years. I love it. I'm very passionate about what we do
Mhm.
as McLaren. I'm very passionate about who I work for, very passionate about what I do. And I think that comes across
Yep.
when I speak to people and guests and like we're doing today. And McLaren is an amazing team. We have an amazing bunch of people that work there. And I just want to see us go from strength to strength and be back where we belong, and that's on the top step.
Yeah.
Let's go.
That's winning championships. I've been fortunate and very privileged to witness 3 world championships with the team, and the feeling of winning a world championship, you can't describe it. You've got to be there to experience it and absorb it and be part of it. And I hope that we've got a team of people that will experience that soon. And I just want to see McLaren back at the top.
Brilliant.
Go.
Any purple, green?
That was a purple sector.
All right. We're
learned
going
so
to
much.
rank that section of purple. We'll see if
he
Mark can get pole.
Wow.
That's a tough.
No pressure
that's
there.
A tough, yeah, that's a tough ask.
Rapid fire round coming up very shortly. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Track Limits podcast. We're here with Mark Norris. Mark, you've gotten a purple first sector. Are you ready to see if you can get another
This
one?
is it.
I'll try.
All right, last sector.
Rapid fire, full of rapid ideally, and fire answers. First question, imagine you're a driver. Who would you love to drive with, living or dead?
Senna.
Okay, great.
Okay, this is gonna be a funny question, but what's the most funniest thing or embarrassing thing that has ever happened to you at a race weekend?
Funniest thing, most embarrassing thing.
Yeah.
Difficult. I'm trying to think. I got. This isn't. It hasn't happened once.
Okay.
It's happened a few times, but a lot of people ask me if I'm Lando's dad.
Oh my god.
And are you? No, I'm kidding.
No, but my answer to that is I'm not. But he has the privilege of having my surname because I was before him.
Yes.
If we ever interview Lando, we should be like, "Are you Mark Norris' son?" If you could add a race to the F1 calendar, where would you pick?
I'd go back to India,
Okay.
South Africa.
Cool.
Okay. The greatest driver, F1 driver of all time, in your opinion?
I think it's got to be Lewis. Known Lewis since he was about 8 years old when he joined the McLaren Academy and followed him through his career, through all his Formula 3, European Formula 3, F2, and then when he got the drive in Monza with us and to win the 7 titles.
Hard to beat.
What a guy.
Yeah.
If you could have only one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Curry.
Okay, love that.
We just had one
Yeah,
maybe last
yeah,
night.
yeah.
It was so good. Guilty pleasure TV show that you watch.
Guilty pleasure.
Drive to Survive.
No, definitely not. It's always James Bond films.
Okay, cool.
Love James Bond films.
Yeah. If you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
Time travel.
Ooh.
Because I'd go back and do things differently. And also, if I knew what I knew now, then I'd probably change the way I did things.
Oh, okay. What's one item you can't leave your house without for your job?
Mobile phone and my wallet.
Yeah.
2 things.
Which celebrity would be a good fit for F1 as a driver? And don't say Brad Pitt. Yeah.
Celebrity as a driver. All the celebrities I know that have tried driving cars have crashed cars. But I can't think of one that would be a good driver. Got to say, Brad Pitt's done very well with all his training,
Yeah.
and Lewis has been involved in some
Yeah.
of that training with Brad Pitt. F1 celebrity going to be a driver.
Like Tom Cruise.
He would be good, but I think he's proved that. I'd like to see one of my favourite films as well is Ford versus Ferrari,
Oh, yeah.
and I'd like to see Matt Damon or
Christian Bale.
have a
Okay.
go in a car.
Yeah. What's something that most people don't know about you?
This is not quick fire, really.
That's all point.
I'm trying to think what people don't know about me. A lot of people don't know I used to rally, I suppose.
okay.
I really enjoyed that. I'd love to do it again.
Yeah.
But I really can't. I don't really know one that That's
good.
possible.
That's a good one,
Sorry
Rally.
about.
I
mean,
love it. No.
we didn't even find that in our
No.
research. So
Yeah,
that was a good
yeah.
one.
Can't think of something that.
You're not Lando's dad. There we
Yeah.
go.
I used to have highlights and long hair at one point, but
Hey.
We're gonna find a
We're
photo.
gonna get that photo and put it right
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Yeah. Which race has the best atmosphere, in your opinion?
atmosphere. I think things like Monza,
Yeah.
historic, the Tifosi.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're so passionate about the racing there. A lot of people ask me actually, do I have a favourite race? And the answer is no, I don't. I like races for lots of different reasons,
Yep.
rather than that is my favourite. Budapest. I love Budapest. I think Budapest is such a beautiful city.
Yep.
But again, the atmosphere there is very good. It's like in a little bowl. Everybody looks down into the circuit. Normally, racing is pretty good
Yep.
there. You know, Montreal, because it's right in the heart of the city. The city gets behind it.
Yep.
Everybody knows F1's in town. Melbourne's the same. Here is great because it's the end of the season.
Yeah.
Everyone's a bit demob happy.
Yeah.
You know, and the atmosphere here is fantastic as well. So
Yep.
yeah, but I think the one, if you really want passion,
Yep.
it's got to be Monza.
Monza. Okay. If you had to choose a different sport to work professionally in, what would it be?
Rally.
What piece of racing memorabilia would you like to own, or do you currently own that you're super proud of?
I have a race helmet from David Coulthard.
Oh wow!
When he drove for us,
Yeah.
and he gave me it for my 30th birthday. And he wrote a very nice message on the back of the helmet to say, congratulations on my 30th birthday, but also thanks for being such a great friend. And I'm still very, very friendly with him today.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, last question. You're stranded on an island.
Yeah.
What 3 drivers or principals would you have with you?
DC,
Okay.
just from a fun point of
Yep.
view. Gunther Steiner. I think he's a quite a character, and I think he would be
100%.
great to get to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And driver, Jensen.
Ah.
Hey.
But funny enough.
Really like. I had a very good relationship with Jensen.
Okay.
And him and DC together, I think would be a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with Gunther, I think I think you'd be in hysterics
Yeah,
the
yeah.
whole time.
We asked Gunther on when he was on our podcast, and we asked him the same question. He's like, I would have none of the 3 principles. He's like, none of them. He's like, I'd rather be alone.
Yeah. Amazing. Purple.
Yeah.
Purple. Pole
Amazing
position
stuff.
there.
Thank you.
Boom.
Very kin to Lewis.
Yes.
How do you want to be remembered, Mark? This is the question we ask every guest at the end. Your legacy, you've done such an incredible job last 25, 26, 27 years in the sport. How do you want to be remembered?
How would I want to be remembered? I think I just want to be remembered as someone that was there for everyone else, who's quite humble, and just wants to make people to be happy and successful.
Yeah.
I'm pretty low maintenance. I'm pretty low key. Let's say I just enjoy what I do, and by making sure I do what I do right, makes things good for everyone else.
Well said. Thank you again
Mic
for
drop.
coming on. Thank you, DP World, for having us do this episode. Incredible.
Amazing
Thank you
privilege.
again for coming on. If you like this episode, like, share, subscribe. Check out our next one coming up.